Amelia.
Hi, so how was your day?
It was great. I learned a lot in the school.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you achieve any of your goals you had going into class today?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know what this class was gonna be about. So every single time that I learned something new from the class, I mean, it's perfect for me. I really try to apply all this knowledge to my personal life. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of new goals that you're looking for?
I got some feedback about that maybe sometimes people think that I'm not paying attention to them or listening to them because of my body language. So sometimes it seems that I look like I'm not paying attention to them and like I'm disconnecting from the conversation, which is weird because sometimes, that's the reality. And some other times, no, I'm paying attention, but the way that I pay attention to people is that actually I try just to look at their faces, like to their eyes, and it seems that I'm just disconnected from the conversation. So that's a big challenge that I have.
Yeah, I can see how that's frustrating too, especially because, so you're saying that you feel like you're giving your undivided attention to people.
Yeah.
But what they're receiving is that you are not, in fact, doing that.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, I think that when you're having issues maybe with nonverbal communication, you kind of have to almost have a timer or like a reminder in your head, because especially when it comes to nonverbal, unfortunately, it's what the other person's perceiving.
Yeah.
Not for you.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to consistently check in with yourself and say, like, am I playing around? Am I doing something else? And also, am I waiting for the person just to finish talking? Do you find that you struggle with that as well?
Yeah, sometimes, to be honest with you, and that's the reason of why I said that sometimes they are right, because whenever a person starts talking to me, I try to pay attention, but sometimes I just start thinking on some other answers, so that at the time that they finish their comment or question or whatever they're saying, I can be prepared to respond. So this is the way that I've been working for years now. So for me, it's kind of complicated to slow down and try to really pay attention without thinking on something else or without thinking on an additional comment over their comments.
Do you remember in class, I hear you and I understand what you're saying. Do you remember in class when sometimes you would have to raise your hand for a question?
Yeah.
And you know how while you're sitting there raising your hand and you're waiting for someone to pick on you and you're waiting, and if you wait too long, you eventually just end up putting your hand down?
Yeah.
Because it almost feels as though at that point your comment or question or whatever it was that you were going to offer is irrelevant now, right?
Yeah.
Instead of raising your hand like you're in a class while someone's talking to you, try to pretend like you kind of are and say like, okay, my question or comment is kind of irrelevant because now this person is telling me something more, right? And then I'm guilty of this too, so I definitely understand where you're coming from. I forget to listen to the end of the sentence because I already have my answer for the beginning of the sentence.
Yeah.
So another thing that I've tried to start doing is I'll repeat back to them the entirety of what they've said to make sure that I didn't miss a point, so that I'm not commenting on something inappropriately.
Yeah, that makes sense, so that people can understand or is aware that I'm paying attention to them by doing that. Yeah, that makes sense, and actually it's a very good tip.
Yeah.
So what about my body language? Do you think that maybe there's some suggestions to me? Because again, on the other hand, sometimes they think that because of my body language, I'm not paying attention to them, but in fact, I'm paying attention to them. It's just that I use the same body language in both circumstances.
I can say for me in my experience, if I'm talking with someone and we start the conversation the way that we're both sitting right now, and then as the conversation becomes, whether it's more comfortable or becomes more intense, the body language will change, right? So if all of a sudden someone's like, oh, right? Now they're kind of guarded, right? They don't actually want to, it doesn't seem like they're accepting what I'm giving them as I'm talking to them if they're now sitting like this.
Yeah.
Or if they are like this, they may be listening, they may just have a spider on their leg, right? But that's not for them. So you almost have to check in with yourself. The biggest thing I can ever say is check in with yourself. But if you find yourself like just kind of looking down, or you find yourself kind of slouching back or moving around getting fidgety, sometimes one, it's because you feel like you already know the answer to what they're asking you and they're taking too long to ask it.
Okay.
And then two, it can also be just because you're a high energy person that you have to move and you have to fidget. So I would almost find another way to transfer that energy so that you can give somebody active listening and your undivided attention.
Yeah. I have another problem, and maybe I can use your help. That is, sometimes people, when they are talking to me, I mean, as you said, I'm a very agile person. I'm a person who really wants to move on, as soon as possible to the next topic, so that I can cover everything. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people they speak a lot, and to be honest with you, when I started having these conversations with these people, I was trying to pay attention all the time. After a while, I just taught myself just to stop them. And this is the way that I manage the conversation. Seriously, if I'm not interested or if the person is just talking in circles, I just stop them and I say, we need to continue. Some people can see on that I'm being very, very rude. So what do you think?
I'm only laughing because I'm the same exact way. If I feel like someone's talking in circles and I get their point, I can't say that what I do is the right thing to do, but what I do is I take the most immediate point they made. This cup is white. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this cup is white. What else can we say about the table? And I try to, I kind of, similar to yourself, kind of navigate it, and so that they don't feel disrespected where I'm like, got it. Because I used to be really bad about saying got it, all right, what else, right? Yeah. So now I've found other kind of key terms to say hey, I'm catching what you're throwing, right? Yeah. And that's where I think also becoming kind of an active listener and becoming fully engaged comes into play, because I found also that as I'm talking to people now, as you're shaking your head right now and things like that, that person knows that okay, they've got it. I don't have to give another example. Yeah. So if you're completely engaged and you're actively, and if your body language isn't saying that you're not interested and that you don't understand, if you're completely actively listening, it will help that person to not feel like they have to go around and around to get their point across.
Times. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I just did.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
So do you have any goals coming up for this week to kind of try to become more of an active listener? Do you think you'll be able to adapt anything in?
Sure, yeah. I have a couple of businesses that I need to attend this weekend, so yeah, it's gonna be a good opportunity for me to practice my active listening.
No, that's great. And then, so I guess the key things that you can do moving forward this week is just make sure that you're fully engaged with that person. Yeah. And even if they are kind of going around and around in circles, you can help them understand that you do get their point, and constantly checking in with yourself. Even if you're bored and you know what they're asking, just checking in with yourself and making sure that you're still present.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I have a manager that actually, he always says, there's a lot of people who likes to fly in their planes for hours. Mm-hmm. So your job is actually to help them land.
Yes.
So that's
a great quote. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let me know how it goes. Let's check back in next week.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sergio.
Thank you. So, bystander.
Yeah. I like the way you even mentioned, Sergio, the confirmation nodding. So that really showed that you were always listening to him actively. I really like that you did that. You always had an open hand position, the circle, the bread basket, so that you can make him feel comfortable. I like that you started it out with asking about his goals, and then you also did a lot of clarifying, the same repeating it back to him so that we're both on the same page. Kind of criticism, I would think that you didn't ask Sergio enough questions and let him talk more and kind of arrive to the conclusions himself. You gave a lot of good feedback, in terms of like a lot of good tips and everything. But I think that it would be better if he arrived to those same conclusions, like working it through himself to motivate like real change. And then at the end, you did discuss like a way forward, but I feel like it was kind of wishy-washy and like, I'll be a better listener. And I don't know if, you know, maybe we could like set up a concrete step towards getting to that. But you did a lot of good things too. So.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.